Captain Dahan stood at the observation window of the shuttle, watching the massive space station grow larger against the backdrop of stars. His hands trembled slightly, though he tried to hide it. This was humanity's first meeting with alien civilizations, and he had been chosen to lead the delegation. Behind him, 3 other humans prepared themselves for what awaited. Dr. Borim checked her translation device for the 100th time. She was a scientist, not a diplomat, but her expertise in xenobiology had earned her a seat on this historic mission. Next to her, Hannah Lee reviewed pronunciation guides for 17 different alien languages. As Earth's best linguist, she would be their voice if the translation technology failed. Colonel Tae-woo sat quietly in the corner, his military uniform pressed perfectly. He said nothing, but his eyes constantly scanned their surroundings, always alert. The shuttle docked with a soft thump. Dahan took a deep breath and straightened his jacket. "Remember," he said to his team, "we represent all of humanity today. Let them see the best of us." The airlock opened, and they stepped into a corridor that seemed to stretch forever. The walls glowed with soft light that had no visible source. Strange symbols floated in the air, rearranging themselves as the humans passed. A creature appeared ahead of them, floating rather than walking. It looked like it was made of crystal, catching and reflecting light in ways that hurt to look at directly. "Welcome, humans of Earth," the crystal being said. The words came not as sound, but as thoughts directly in their minds. "I am Sholin, Grand Arbitrator of the Galactic Council. Please, follow me to the greeting chamber." They walked through halls filled with beings of every shape imaginable. Some had too many limbs, others had none. Some breathed air, while others floated in tanks of liquid. A few were so strange that human eyes struggled to make sense of what they were seeing, but all of them stopped to stare at the humans as they passed. "They seem very interested in us," Hannah whispered. "We are new," Borim replied. "Probably just curious." But Colonel Tae-woo noticed something else. The way some aliens stepped back as the humans approached. The way conversations stopped. It was not curiosity in their expressions. It was something closer to nervousness. The greeting chamber was enormous. Thousands of aliens filled the space, representing the Council's member species. At the center stood a platform where Sholin led the human delegation. Holographic displays surrounded them, showing Earth from space, human cities, and snippets of broadcasts from Earth's internet. "Humans of Earth," Sholin announced to the assembled crowd. "You have been invited here to join the community of galactic civilizations. For 10,000 years, this council has guided the development of intelligent species across the stars. Today, we welcome you to take your place among us." Dahan felt pride swell in his chest. He had prepared a speech, words about cooperation and friendship, and humanity's hopes for the future. But before he could speak, Sholin continued. "As is tradition, we must first register your species in the Great Archive. This archive was created by the precursors, the ancient civilization that came before all of us. Every species has a true name in the archive, given according to their nature and their world. It is a simple ceremony, merely a formality, the crystal being raised what might have been arms. Light gathered around SHEO land, growing brighter and brighter. Then it shot upward, connecting to something vast and invisible above them. The air itself seemed to hum with energy on every screen and every display. In every mind connected to the Council network, words began to appear. They were in the ancient precursor language first, then translated instantly into every language spoken in the galaxy. The translation appeared. "The Deathworlders who cannot be broken." Silence fell across the chamber. It was the kind of silence that felt heavy, oppressive, wrong. Thousands of aliens stared at the humans. The expressions on their faces, those that had faces, changed from curiosity to something else entirely. Fear. "There must be a mistake," Dahan said, his voice sounding small in the enormous chamber. "What does that mean?" "Deathworlders." Sholin's crystalline form seemed to dim. "The archive does not make mistakes. It has never made a mistake. Not in 1,000,000,000 years." An alien that looked like a collection of floating plants spoke up, its voice shaking. "Deathworld classification means a planet with extreme danger levels. High gravity, dangerous predators, toxic atmosphere, violent weather, worlds where evolution is a constant battle for survival. Earth is rated at danger level 12 out of 10, another alien added, its multiple eyes all fixed on the humans. That is impossible. The scale only goes to 10. No species should be able to evolve on such a world, let alone achieve spaceflight. Bo-Rim stepped forward. Our planet is dangerous? Compared to what? It is just Earth. It is just home to us. A wave of disturbed sounds rippled through the chamber. Aliens spoke to each other in dozens of languages. But the translation systems picked up the common themes. Dangerous threat. Quarantine. Destroy them now. Colonel Tae-Woo moved closer to Daehan. Captain, we have a problem, he said quietly. Security drones just activated around the exits. I count at least 50 weapons now pointed at us. Hannah looked at the screen still displaying Earth's designation. What happened to the other Deathworld species? She asked. You said we are not the first. Sholin turned to face her, and even through its alien form, the humans could sense sadness. There have been 3 others. One conquered 40 star systems before we destroyed them. One enslaved 6 species before Civil War ended them. The 3rd is locked on their homeworld, too dangerous to exterminate, too dangerous to release. All 3 became monsters. And you think we will do the same, Daehan said. It was not a question. The archive predicts behavior as well as classifies origin, Sholin explained. Species from Deathworlds do not cooperate. They dominate. They do not negotiate. They conquer. Pain and death are their natural state. They cannot be reasoned with because they cannot understand peace. The Grand Arbitrator's form brightened again, this time with what might have been resolve. The Council must vote on your fate, but I suspect the outcome is already decided. Humanity will be quarantined to your solar system. Any attempt to leave will result in the destruction of your vessels. I am sorry, but the safety of the galaxy must come first. Around them, the chamber erupted in debate. But Daehan barely heard it. He looked at his team, at these 3 humans who had traveled so far with such hope, and saw his own shock reflected in their faces. They had come to the stars seeking friends. Instead, they had been sentenced to eternal imprisonment for the crime of being survivors. The human delegation sat in a small waiting room while the council debated their fate. The room had no windows, and guards stood outside. They were prisoners in everything but name. Dr. Bo-Rim could not stop thinking about the archive's words. She pulled up her portable computer and began searching through the limited data the council had provided about Earth. This does not make sense, she muttered. Yes, Earth has predators and weather and diseases, but so does every planet with life. What makes ours so special? Colonel Tae-Woo stood by the door, listening to the muffled sounds of argument from outside. They are afraid of us, he said. Real fear, the kind that makes people do extreme things. We have done nothing to them, Hannah protested. We came in peace. We brought gifts, art, music. We offered friendship. That does not matter, Daehan said quietly. He sat with his head in his hands, trying to process what had happened. They see what we might become, not what we are. To them, we are monsters waiting to happen. The door opened. Instead of guards, a single alien entered. It was small, with soft gray skin and 4 arms. Its large eyes blinked nervously as it approached. Please do not be alarmed, it said in hesitant English. My name is Lanier. I am a historian and researcher. I believe the council is making a mistake. Bo-Rim stood up quickly. You can help us? Perhaps, Lanier said, glancing back at the door. I have access to the deeper archives, the parts most council members never see. I want to show you the truth about the other Deathworld species. Maybe if we understand them, we can convince the council that humans are different. The alien led them through back corridors, avoiding the main halls where the council session continued. They reached a quiet library filled with floating data crystals. Lanier touched several, and information began appearing on screens around them. The first Deathworld species was the Kritesh, the historian explained. Images showed creatures that looked like armored insects, each the size of a human car. Their world had gravity, 3 times standard, constant volcanic eruptions, and predators that hunted in packs of hundreds. The Kritesh evolved to be perfect killers. When they reached space, they saw every other species as either prey or competition. The images changed to show destruction. Planets burning, cities in ruins. The Kritesh had conquered 40 star systems in just 50 years before the Council assembled an armada large enough to stop them. The second species was the Varel. New images appeared. These creatures were massive, with thick armor plating and claws that could tear through metal. Their planet had oceans of acid and an atmosphere that corroded most materials. They were even more aggressive than the Kritesh. They did not just conquer worlds. They enslaved entire species, forcing them to fight in their wars. Hannah watched the images with growing horror. The Varel had been stopped not by the Council, but by their own nature. Different Varel factions had turned on each other, destroying themselves in a civil war that lasted decades. The third species, the Shkai, are still alive, Lanier continued, but they are trapped on their homeworld behind a barrier the Council maintains constantly. Their planet has the highest danger rating ever recorded before Earth. Extreme radiation. Predators that can sense fear, and plants that actively hunt animal life. The Shkai evolved to feel no empathy, no compassion, nothing but the drive to survive and dominate. Borim studied the data carefully. What was their planet's danger rating? She asked. 10 out of 10, Lanier answered. The maximum possible rating? And Earth is rated at 12? Borim said slowly. That means our world is more dangerous than any of theirs. Impossible by the old standards, the historian confirmed. The Council's scientists are still trying to understand how humans even survived, let alone built a civilization. Your gravity alone should have prevented your species from developing. The oxygen levels in your atmosphere would be toxic to 90% of galactic species. Your weather systems generate storms with energy equal to small nuclear weapons. Colonel Taewoo crossed his arms. Yet here we are, as Lanier said softly. Here you are. And that terrifies them. Daehan had been quiet, reading through the data on the screens. These other species, he said finally, did they have art? Music, philosophy? Lanier paused. What do you mean? Did the Kr Ritesh write poetry? Did the Varal create paintings? Did the Shkai develop ethical systems, debate morality, question their own nature? The historian's expression changed. No, none of them did. They had technology, military strategy, survival instincts, but nothing like what you describe. Borim understood what Daehan was suggesting, because their worlds only taught them violence. They learned to kill or be killed. Nothing more. Earth taught us the same lesson, Daehan said. But we learned something else too. We learned to work together. We created communities, nations, a global civilization. Yes, we fought wars. Yes, we killed each other. But we also built hospitals, wrote books, composed symphonies, painted masterpieces. We did not just survive Earth. We made it beautiful. Hannah pulled up images from the human database on her device. She showed Lanier pictures of human art through the ages. Cave paintings from 40,000 years ago. Gothic cathedrals. Renaissance sculptures. Modern architecture. Music from every culture and every era. We come from a world that tries to kill us every day, she said. Earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanoes, diseases, predators. But we responded by creating beauty. We found meaning in survival. We developed compassion because we understood suffering. Linnea stared at the images, its forearms trembling. This is unprecedented. The other Deathworld species created nothing like this. They built only weapons and war machines. Then maybe the archive is incomplete, Borim suggested. It classifies us based on where we come from, but it does not account for who we chose to become. The historian began working frantically, pulling up more data. There is something else. Something hidden in corrupted files that most researchers ignore. Give me a moment. They waited while Lanier searched through ancient data. The alien made sounds of surprise and confusion, typing commands faster and faster. Finally it stopped. I found something, the historian whispered. About the precursors themselves? The civilization that created the archive. What about them? Dehan asked. They were Deathworlders too. Lanier's voice shook. Their homeworld had a danger rating of 13. They were the most dangerous species ever to exist. They conquered the entire galaxy, not through war, but through elevation. They uplifted thousands of primitive species, gave them technology, guided them to civilization. They created the foundation of everything we know today. What happened to them? Colonel Tae-woo asked. They chose to end themselves, Lanier said quietly. The records are fragmentary, but the conclusion is clear. They judged themselves too dangerous to exist. They feared what they might become. So they committed species-wide suicide, leaving only the archive as a warning to others. The room fell silent. The weight of that revelation pressed down on all of them. The archive has a final message, the historian continued, pulling up one last file. It is encoded in humanity's designation. The full translation reads, "The Deathworlders, who cannot be broken, will either save you or doom you. The choice is theirs." Borim read the words several times. A prophecy. A warning, Tae-woo corrected. A challenge, Dehan said. He stood up, his fear replaced by determination. The precursors gave us a choice. The Council sees only the danger. They see monsters, but we know who we are. We know what we can be. We just need to show them. Outside, alarms began blaring. Lanier's expression turned to panic. The Council has reached a decision. We need to get you back to the waiting room before they realize you are gone. As they hurried through the corridors, Dehan thought about Earth, about humanity's long, bloody, beautiful history, about every time they had faced extinction and survived, about every time they had chosen peace over war, creation over destruction. The galaxy was about to learn what humans really were, and the captain hoped, with all his heart, that they would choose wisely. The message reached Earth 70 hours after the Council's decision. Commander Jin Kwan stood in the United Earth Defense Force headquarters, watching the transmission with growing disbelief. Around him, military officers and government officials wore expressions of shock and anger. "They are building a blockade," Admiral Park Soo reported, pointing at the tactical display. 300 vessels taking position around our solar system. Any ship that attempts to leave will be destroyed. They call it a quarantine, a prison, someone muttered from the back of the room. President Rock-Soo entered the command center, his face grave. He had aged 10 years in the past 3 days. "What are our options?" he asked quietly. Jin Kwan pulled up strategic analyses on the main screen. Militarily, none that end well. Each Council ship has technology centuries ahead of ours. Our best warships would last maybe 30 seconds in combat. If we fight, we lose. If we lose, they might decide extinction is safer than containment. So we do nothing? President Rock-Soo's voice carried frustration and helplessness. We accept imprisonment for the crime of existing. No, Jin, Kwan said firmly. We show them who we really are. Not through weapons, but through our choices. In orbit around Jupiter, Captain Hua Da received new orders from Earth Command. Her mining station crew of 40 humans had been working in the outer system when the quarantine began. Now Council enforcement ships were approaching, demanding their surrender. "They want us to dock with their vessel for processing," her communications officer reported. "They say if we resist, they will disable our station." Ha looked at her crew. They were miners, engineers, scientists, not soldiers. They had families back on Earth. They had committed no crime except being born human. "Open a channel to the Council ship," she ordered. The alien commander appeared on screen. It had scales like a reptile, and eyes that reflected light like mirrors. "Human vessel, you will comply immediately or face consequences." "Commander Zeleth," Wada said, reading the name from her database, "we will not resist. But before we surrender, I want to invite you and your officers to dinner aboard our station." The alien's eyes widened in confusion. "What? Dinner?" Hua repeated calmly. "We are about to become your prisoners. The least we can do is share a meal first. It is a human tradition. Breaking bread with others, even enemies, to show we see their humanity, or in your case, their personhood. Zeleth was silent for a long moment. Finally, the alien spoke. You are inviting your captor to dinner? I am inviting a fellow intelligent being to share food and conversation. Da corrected. Will you accept? 2 hours later, Zeleth and 3 officers sat in the station's dining hall. The humans had prepared the best meal they could from their limited supplies. Vegetables grown in the station's gardens, synthetic protein flavored to taste like earth dishes, even a small dessert made from recycled ingredients. The aliens ate slowly, uncertain of the food but finding it surprisingly pleasant. Zeleth watched the humans carefully, as if expecting a trick or trap. Instead, he saw them laughing with each other, sharing stories, treating this meal like any other, despite their impending imprisonment. Why are you doing this? Zeleth finally asked. You should be angry, afraid, fighting or fleeing. Instead, you invite us to eat. Da! Set down her fork. Commander, may I show you something? She pulled up her personal tablet and displayed images. This is my grandmother. She lived through the last war, the one that almost destroyed humanity 50 years ago. Cities burned. Millions died. She lost her husband, her home, everything. But when the fighting ended, do you know what she did? Zeleth said nothing, transfixed by the images. She became a teacher. She opened a school in the ruins of her city. She taught children from both sides of the war, children whose parents had killed each other, and she taught them not to hate. She taught them that violence is easy, but peace requires courage. More images appeared. Humans rebuilding cities. Humans of different nations working together. Humans creating art from the wreckage of war. Humans saving endangered animals even as they struggled to feed themselves. Earth is a harsh world, Wada continued. It tries to kill us in 1,000 ways. So yes, we learn to fight. We learn to survive. But we also learn something your data does not show. We learned that the only way to truly survive is together. We learned compassion from suffering. We learned cooperation from scarcity. We learned to value life because we have seen so much death. She pulled up more files. Historical records from throughout human civilization. You mentioned our wars and our violence. You are right. We have done terrible things to each other. Genocides, slavery, destruction of our own environment. We do not deny any of it. But look at what else we did. The images showed hospitals built in war zones, refugee camps where strangers cared for strangers, musicians playing in bomb shelters, artists creating beauty in concentration camps, scientists sharing discoveries freely instead of hoarding them, ordinary people risking their lives to save others during disasters. We are not perfect, Wada said. We are capable of great evil, but we are also capable of choosing not to commit that evil. We can be violent. We can be destructive, but we can also be kind. We can also create. We can also love. That is what makes us dangerous to you. Not our violence, but our unpredictability. You cannot control what you cannot predict. Zeleth stared at the images for a long time. His officers whispered to each other in their own language. Finally, the commander spoke. The other Deathworld species never showed us anything like this. They only showed us rage and conquest, because their worlds only taught them rage and conquest, Wada replied. Earth taught us both war and peace, both cruelty and kindness, both destruction and creation. We learned all of it, and then we had to choose which path to follow. We chose poorly many times, but we kept trying to choose better. Back on Earth, President Roxu prepared for his own gamble. Against the advice of his military commanders, he decided to address the galaxy directly. Commander Jin Quan argued against it, warning that it could provoke the Council into harsher measures. But the president was determined. We cannot win this through military force, Roxu said. We cannot escape through clever tactics. Our only weapon is truth. Let the galaxy judge us by our own words, not by the Council's fears. The president's technical team had discovered something interesting. the precursor communication network that connected all civilized worlds, operated on frequencies that Earth's radio technology could access. With the right modifications, it could broadcast directly to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Bypassing Council censorship entirely, it took 6 hours to set up the equipment. Engineers worked frantically, testing and retesting every connection. The president reviewed his speech again and again, changing words, removing rhetoric, seeking simplicity and honesty. Finally, they were ready. President Roxu sat before the camera, wearing a simple suit with no decorations or symbols of power. He wanted the galaxy to see a person, not a politician. People of the galaxy, he began, my name is Roxu. I am the elected leader of Earth, a planet you now call a death world. You have imprisoned my species because you fear what we might become. I understand your fear. I have read the histories of the other death world species. I have seen what they did, but I want to tell you what we have done in the 6 months since first contact. He paused, letting the translation systems catch up. Across 12,000 worlds, billions of beings suddenly received a message that should not have been possible. Councils scrambled to block it, but the precursor network was ancient and hardened against censorship. We have fired no weapons at you, the president continued. We have issued no threats. We have not tried to escape or resist your quarantine. When your ships approached our mining station at Jupiter, our people invited your commander to dinner. Not a trap, not a trick. Actual dinner. A meal shared between strangers as a gesture of respect. You judge us by our potential for violence. That is fair. We do have that potential. But we also have the potential for peace, for cooperation, for friendship. 6 months ago, we learned we were not alone in the universe. We could have hidden our true nature. We could have lied about our world. Instead, we came to you with open hands and honest hearts. We thought the galaxy was ready for us. The president's expression turned sad. Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps you need more time. Perhaps the wounds left by the other Death World species have not yet healed. We understand. We will wait. We will stay in our solar system. We will prove through our patience and our choices that we are not the monsters you fear. He leaned forward, speaking directly to the camera with quiet intensity. But I want you to remember something. You have imprisoned us, not for what we have done, but for what you fear we might do. Ask yourselves if that is justice. Ask yourselves if that is the kind of galaxy you want to live in. We will be here when you are ready to see us as we truly are. Until then, we wait. The transmission ended. Within hours, it had spread to every corner of civilized space. Governments tried to suppress it, but millions had already seen it. News networks debated it. Religious leaders discussed its philosophical implications. Ordinary citizens argued in streets and forums across 12,000 worlds. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives screamed at each other in dozens of languages. Some demanded immediate action against humanity for their unauthorized broadcast. Others argued that the human president's message proved the quarantine was unjust. The chamber split into 3 distinct factions, each convinced they alone held the right answer. Grand Arbitrator Sholin tried to restore order, but even its authority wavered in the face of such division. The council had not been this fractured in centuries. Some species threatened to withdraw from the alliance entirely if humans were freed. Others threatened the same if humans remained imprisoned. On the station where the human delegation remained confined, Dr. Borim received messages from scientists across the galaxy. Many were sent secretly through channels that avoided official oversight. They asked questions about human biology, human culture, human history. They wanted to understand how a species from such a deadly world had developed art and philosophy alongside their survival instincts. One message came from a prominent xenobiologist. A being from a water world where the greatest danger was mild storms? We have studied evolution for thousands of years, the message read. We thought we understood the relationship between environment and behavior. Your species contradicts everything we believed. Harsh worlds create harsh species. Yet you create beauty, you show mercy. How is this possible? Bo-Rim spent hours composing her response. She explained that yes, Earth was dangerous, but that danger took many forms. Not just predators and disasters, but also scarcity that forced cooperation. Challenges that required innovation, and suffering that taught empathy. We did not succeed in spite of Earth's harshness, she wrote. We succeeded because of it. Every challenge made us stronger, but also made us wiser. Every loss taught us the value of what remains. Meanwhile, Hannah Lee discovered that the human president's broadcast had sparked a cultural movement among younger aliens. They called themselves the Bridge Builders and advocated for dialogue with humanity instead of isolation. They created art inspired by human culture, composed music using human scales and rhythms, wrote essays about the philosophical implications of a species that could choose peace. Despite being built for war, the Council's security forces tried to shut down these movements, but they spread too quickly. On industrial worlds where workers toiled in harsh conditions, humans became symbols of resilience. On peaceful worlds where citizens had grown soft from generations of safety, humans represented the primal strength that civilization had forgotten. Even on military worlds, soldiers debated whether humanity might make powerful allies rather than terrifying enemies. Colonel Tae-woo monitored these developments with careful attention. He understood that public opinion was shifting, but he also knew that fear often led to desperate actions. The hardline faction within the council, led by a militant species called the Corral, were pushing for a final solution. Not imprisonment, extermination. They are gaining support, he told Captain Daehan privately. 36 species have signed their petition. If they get 50 signatures, they can force a vote on humanity's complete destruction. Daehan felt ice in his stomach. How long do we have? Days, maybe hours. The captain made a decision. Get me a communication link to President Rock-Soo. We need to prepare Earth for the worst. But before he could send the message, alarms blared throughout the station. Not the soft alerts that meant a drill or minor incident. These were emergency warnings, the kind that meant immediate danger. The humans rushed to their window and saw something that made their blood run cold. A massive fleet had arrived at the council station. Not the enforcement vessels they had seen before. These were warships, bristling with weapons that could crack planets. At their head flew the banner of the Coral military fleet. They are not waiting for a vote, Tae-woo said quietly. On Earth, Commander Jin Kwan saw the same fleet on his screens. His tactical officers scrambled to analyze the ships, to find any weakness, any possible defense. But the numbers were clear. If that fleet attacked Earth, humanity would be extinct within hours. Sir, his communications officer said. We are receiving a transmission from the Coral flagship. The alien that appeared on screen was massive, covered in armor plating that looked biological rather than technological. Its voice boomed like thunder. Humans of Earth, you have poisoned the galaxy with your words. You have confused the weak-minded with your lies about peace and art. You are Deathworlders. You are born killers. We will not wait for you to reveal your true nature. Your extinction begins now. The transmission cut off. The Coral fleet began moving toward the jump gate that would take them to Earth's solar system. Back at the council station, something unexpected happened. Ships from the enforcement fleet, the vessels that had been maintaining the quarantine, moved to block the Coral advance. Not all of them. Perhaps a third. But enough to make the militant aliens pause. Commander Zelith's voice came over open channels. Coral fleet, you do not have council authorization for military action? Stand down immediately. You would defend Deathworlders. The Coral commander responded with contempt. You ate at their table, and they poisoned your mind. Step aside, or be destroyed with them. I ate at their table, Zelith confirmed, and I learned something. These humans are not like the other Deathworld species. They invited me to dinner when I came to imprison them. They showed me their art, their history, their choices. I do not know if they will save us or doom us. But I know they deserve the chance to prove themselves. Or ships join the line blocking the Coral fleet. Not many, The militants still had overwhelming numbers. But it was a start. In the council chamber, Grand Arbitrator Sholin made a desperate decision. Emergency session, it announced. All council members, vote now. War or peace? Extermination or engagement? Choose. The vote began. Each species had one vote, counted publicly for all to see. The chamber fell silent as the tally appeared on screens. Species after species voted for war. The Corral, their allies. Those who feared change, those who trusted the ancient warnings. The numbers climbed toward the majority needed for authorized extermination. But other votes came too. Species that had read human literature, translated into their languages, species that had watched human broadcasts showing both their capacity for violence and their capacity for kindness. Species that believed in second chances, or that feared what the galaxy might lose if they destroyed something unique. The tally crept upward on both sides. 50 species. 60, 70. The tension in the chamber became almost unbearable. Then a small species, one of the oldest in the council, cast their vote for peace. The precursors left us a warning, their representative said, but also a choice. They did not tell us to destroy the next Death World species. They told us that species would either save us or doom us, and that the choice was theirs. We must give the humans the chance to make that choice. The final tally came in, 24 votes for war, 23 votes for peace. With nearly half the council abstaining, neither side had won. Sholin's crystalline form pulsed with light. The vote has failed to reach a decision. By council law, when war is proposed but not authorized, the status must remain at peace. The quarantine continues, but military action is forbidden. Corral fleet began to withdraw, furious but unable to act without council authority. But everyone knew this was not over. The hardliners would try again. They would gather more support, apply more pressure. Captain Dehan received a message from Earth. President Roxu's face appeared on the small screen. The president looked exhausted but determined. Captain, we need to do more than survive this. We need to prove we are worth saving. Tell me what humanity must do. Dehan thought about everything he had learned, about the other Death World species and their failures, about the precursors and their choice to end themselves, about the galaxy's fear and humanity's response to that fear. We need to show them something they have never seen before, he said finally. The other Death Worlders showed them violence. We need to show them something different. Something that proves we are not just survivors, but also builders. Not just warriors, but also healers. We need to give them a reason to hope instead of fear. What do you suggest? The president asked. Dehan smiled. The same smile that had defined humanity since they first looked up at the stars and wondered what waited there. I suggest we make them an offer they did not know they needed. We offer them our help, not our weapons, not our conquest, our help. We find a problem the council cannot solve, and we solve it. We prove that Death Worlders can be heroes instead of villains. President Roxu was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. Find that problem, Captain. Show the galaxy what humans can really do. As the communication ended, Dehan turned to his team. They had been through so much in the past days. Shock, fear, imprisonment, the threat of extinction. But now he saw something else in their eyes. Hope. Determination. The same spirit that had carried humanity through ice ages and plagues and wars and every other challenge. Earth had thrown at them. They have work to do, he said simply. And they gotta work. Dr. Bo Rim found the problem in the Council's own medical database. A plague had appeared on 3 worlds in the Outer Rim, a region of space far from the Council's central authority. The disease spread quickly, killing thousands per day. Council doctors had been fighting it for 2 months, with no success. The affected species had physiology so different from standard galactic biology that conventional treatments failed. This is it, Bo Rim told the human delegation. This is how we prove ourselves. Captain Dehan looked at the data with concern. The Council has advanced medical technology, and thousands of years of experience. What makes you think we can succeed where they failed? Because we come from Earth, Borim replied. She pulled up comparative data showing Earth's disease environment compared to typical galactic worlds. Most species evolved on stable planets with relatively few pathogens. Their immune systems are efficient, but narrow. Earth threw everything at us. Bacteria, viruses, parasites, prions, diseases that attack every system in our body. We survive by developing the most aggressive, adaptive immune system in known space. Human white blood cells that could identify and attack thousands of different pathogens. Human antibodies that adapted within days to new threats. Human fever responses that could reach temperatures that would kill most aliens, but merely made humans uncomfortable. We have been fighting diseases more complex than this plague for hundreds of thousands of years. Borim continued. Our medical knowledge is primitive by galactic standards, but our understanding of disease evolution and immune response is unmatched. I think I can solve this. Colonel Tae-woo raised a concern. Will the council let us help? They still see us as threats. Make them an offer they cannot refuse, Daehan decided. Hannah, draft a message to the council. Borim, prepare everything you need. We are going to show the galaxy what Death Worlders can do when they choose to heal instead of hurt. The message reached the council during another heated debate session. Grand Arbitrator Sholin read it aloud with something like disbelief in its mental voice. The humans offered to send medical assistance to the plague worlds. Dr. Borim, a human scientist, believes she can develop a cure. The chamber erupted in argument. Some species saw it as a trick. Others as a desperate attempt to win favor. A few saw it as an opportunity. Commander Zeleth spoke up. What do we have to lose? Thousands are dying. If the humans fail, we are no worse off than now. If they succeed, we save lives and learn the truth about them. The Corral representative stood, his armored form towering over others. This is manipulation. They want access to our worlds, our people, our weaknesses. It is the first step in conquest. Or, said a small voice from the back, it is the first step in cooperation. The vote was closer than expected. With 17 votes in favor and 14 against, the council gave permission, but with strict conditions. The human doctor would work under constant supervision. She would have no access to military data or strategic information, and at the first sign of deception, the mission would end with human extinction. Dr. Borim accepted the terms without hesitation. 3 days later, she arrived at the first plague world. The devastation shocked even her. Cities that should have held millions now echoed with emptiness. Hospitals overflowed with the dying. Burial grounds expanded daily. The local species, beings that resembled crystalline structures, were losing cohesion and shattering. It was a horrible way to die. Council doctors briefed her with barely concealed skepticism. They had tried 93 different treatment approaches. All had failed. Some had made things worse. The plague adapted faster than they could develop responses. Show me a sample of the disease, Borim requested. What she saw under the microscope fascinated and horrified her. The plague was not one disease, but hundreds, all working together in a coordinated system. They attacked from multiple angles, overwhelming immune responses through sheer variety and adaptation speed. It is a disease swarm, she muttered, just like Earth. The council doctors did not understand. What do you mean? Borim explained how Earth's disease environment worked. Multiple pathogens attacking simultaneously, each one forcing the immune system to adapt, creating opportunities for others. Human medicine developed specifically to fight this kind of coordinated attack. We call it combination therapy. You do not fight one disease. You fight the entire system. She worked for 30 hours straight, identifying patterns in how the plague organisms communicated and coordinated. She found the keystone species, the one that managed the swarm. If she could disrupt that communication, the rest would fall apart. But there was a problem. The treatment she designed required components that human immune systems produced naturally, but that these aliens could not make. She needed human antibodies, specifically designed to attack the plague's communication mechanism. I need to infect myself with the plague, she told the council observers. They refused immediately. That is suicide. You will die. Maybe, Borim acknowledged. But my immune system will fight it. And in fighting it, my body will produce antibodies specific to this plague. We can extract those antibodies and use them to treat the infected. It is a technique humans have used for over a century. And if your immune system fails, Borim smiled tiredly, then I die, proving that Deathworlders are not afraid to sacrifice themselves for others. Either way, the galaxy learned something about us. She infected herself before they could stop her. Within hours, the plague was spreading through her system. Pain racked her body. Fever spiked to dangerous levels. She could feel the disease trying to coordinate its attack, probing for weaknesses. But her immune system responded with frightening efficiency. White blood cells multiplied at extraordinary rates. Antibodies adapted and evolved in real time. Her fever reached 40 degrees Celsius, enough to slow the plague's reproduction while her immune response overwhelmed it. The council doctors watched in amazement. Her body is fighting a battle that would kill any of our species, one whispered, and she is winning. After 6 days of suffering, Borim's fever broke. The plague was defeated. Her immune system had done what galactic medicine could not. The doctors immediately began extracting her antibodies, processing them into treatments for the infected aliens. The first patient received the treatment with little hope. But within hours, their crystalline structure began stabilizing. The disease swarm, deprived of its coordination mechanism, fell apart. Within days, the patient recovered. Word spread quickly. More patients received treatment. More recovered. The plague was not just contained but defeated. Within 2 weeks, all 3 affected worlds showed dramatic improvement. The galaxy watched. Images spread of Dr. Borim, weakened from her ordeal, working alongside council doctors to refine the treatment, of humans and aliens cooperating to save lives, of a Deathworlder choosing to suffer so others might live. Captain Dehan received the news aboard the council station. He read messages from across the galaxy, from ordinary citizens who had seen what Borim had done. Many expressed shame at having supported human quarantine. Others questioned what else they had been wrong about. Grand Arbitrator Sholand visited the human delegation personally. Your doctor saved thousands of lives. She risked her own without hesitation. This is not the behavior of a species bent on conquest. No, Dehan agreed. It is the behavior of a species that understands suffering and chooses to prevent it. The council must vote again, Sholand said. This time, I believe the outcome will be different. The vote took place 1 week later. The chamber was packed with representatives, observers, and media from across the galaxy. The human delegation sat in a special section, no longer prisoners but guests. One by one, species cast their votes. This time, the count was not even close. 41 votes for full engagement with humanity, only 6 votes against. The abstentions had disappeared, replaced by beings willing to take a chance on hope.
Oh, yes.
By the authority of the Galactic Council, Sholan announced, humanity is granted provisional membership. The quarantine is lifted. Earth and its colonies may expand freely. All charges and restrictions are removed. Captain Dehan stood to address the council. We came to you seeking friendship. Instead, we found fear. But that fear was not entirely unjustified. We are dangerous. We come from a world that tried to kill us every day of our evolution. We learned violence, yes. But we also learned something else. We learned that the only way to survive Earth was together. That the strong must protect the weak. That today's enemy might be tomorrow's friend. That every life has value. He paused, looking around the chamber at the hundreds of different species present. You asked what we would choose? Would we save you or doom you? Here's our answer. We choose to save. Not because we are incapable of violence, but because we are capable of choosing peace. The other Deathworld species failed that test. They let their harsh origins define their future. We refuse to make that mistake. Earth made us strong, but we choose to use that strength to protect, not to conquer. The applause grew louder. Hannah Lee wiped tears from her eyes. Colonel Taewoo allowed himself a small smile. They had done it. Against impossible odds, they had proven humanity's worth.